Welcome to your midweek cybersecurity executive briefing, brought to you by Clock Tower Technology Services and the United Regional Chamber of Commerce. I'm Brian Sulo, your virtual CISO for the next 15 minutes. My company is Clock Tower Technology Services, and we provide IT, telecom, and information security services to businesses with 10 to 100 employees. But this isn't a sales pitch, so if you want to learn more about what we do and how we do it, we can talk later. Today is Wednesday, September 22nd, and right now I'm going to bring you cybersecurity news and takeaways that you can use in your business today. I try to keep the InfoSec jargon to a minimum, but if there's anything you don't understand, please ask me to clarify. I would just request that you hold your questions to the end so that we can get through all the topics in the allotted time. Now let's get started. Our first two items are breaking stories from the Hacker News. If you have a NETGEAR router in your business or your home, you need to know about a vulnerability that was just disclosed. This vulnerability allows an attacker to run arbitrary code, that's InfoSec speak for do whatever they want, on your NETGEAR router, which can in turn be used to infiltrate your network. The affected models are as follows. These are all NETGEAR products. The R6400V2, the R6700, the R6700V3, the R6900, the R6900P, the R7000, the R7000P, the R7850, the R7900, the R8000, and the RS400. My takeaway, if your router is affected, make sure to patch it immediately. If you don't know what kind of router you have, find out immediately or get your IT team to verify. Now, you don't hear a lot about Mac vulnerabilities, but when you do, they're generally pretty serious. Again, from the Hacker News, a report of a vulnerability that allows an attacker to run arbitrary code on a Mac by enticing the user to open a specially crafted inetloc file. This would likely be sent as an attachment or download via a link in a phishing email. Inetloc files are essentially shortcuts to internet locations and really shouldn't be emailed or downloaded for any reason. Apple did issue a patch for this, but as we've seen in the past, the patch wasn't completely effective and bypassing it is trivial. My takeaway from this is that your organization should be blocking inetloc files in email. I expect Apple will release a revised patch quickly, but make sure to maintain vigilance on what you receive via email. Our next story comes from IPVM, a self-proclaimed information source for video surveillance. And the report is of a critical vulnerability in Hikvision camera systems. Such a vulnerability could be used to gain access to a network where these cameras are attached. Hikvision, a Chinese company, is already on the US government's list of devices that cannot be used in federal properties, and the FCC is planning to ban the devices entirely. Regardless, Hikvision camera systems are very popular in small business settings because of their ease of use and their cost. My takeaway is this: if you have Hikvision cameras in your environment, do the following in this order and as quickly as possible. First, turn off any external access to your camera system. Second, segregate your camera system from the rest of your network. And third, replace your camera system with one that does not include Hikvision components. That last one may be easier said than done, since there are a huge number of OEM labels that are really just Hikvision products. And those are listed here on the screen. So your IT provider or your security vendor should be able to direct you in how to do those things and in what type of product you should be using. Next, from bleepingcomputer.com. Recently, security researchers compiled a list of the most often exploited vulnerabilities in corporate networks. They affect not only Windows systems, but firewalls, VPNs, NAS devices, and cloud services. The one thing they all have in common: there are patches for every single one. They're commonly used because so many companies don't bother to ensure all their systems are patched. My takeaway should be obvious. Make patching a priority. If you're not managing patching, and that's patching of all your systems, not just desktops and notebooks, start now. Talk to your IT support provider to make sure this is happening consistently. From ThreatPost, following up on last week's big Microsoft vulnerability, ransomware gangs and others are already taking advantage of the vulnerability, sending phishing messages with links to specially crafted Word documents that can take over unpatched systems. My takeaway: it's important to stay up on the vulnerabilities that affect your systems. To check and see if you have the appropriate patch, go to Settings and then Update and Security. Windows 10 will automatically start downloading the necessary updates. If you see KB005565, KB00, KB5005566, 68, or 69 in the list, those are the patches that correct this problem in different versions of Windows 10. If your computer has already installed the hotfix, you won't see it there. The fastest way to determine if you have a particular patch on your computer is to open PowerShell from the Start menu and then type the command get hotfix and press enter. Look for the KB numbers I mentioned earlier, and you can see that here. I've opened a PowerShell command, typed get hotfix, and we can see the one of those KB articles that I mentioned is installed. One thing to look out for, however: Windows updates contain multiple patches. One of the patches in this month's update could affect your ability to print to network printers. Reporting in bleepingcomputer.com, Lawrence Abrams explains that this is a patch to mitigate the vulnerability known as Print Nightmare, but that it can cause computers to be unable to print to network printers in certain cases. My takeaway: if you can't print after installing this month's update, you may need to edit the Windows registry as detailed in the bleepingcomputer.com article titled How to Fix the Windows 0x000001-1B Network Printing Error. It should be right there on the front page if you go to look for it. There's a trade-off, though, since making this change, which allows you to print again, will also make you vulnerable to the Print Nightmare exploit again. This is where risk assessment comes into play. For any given system that may run into this problem, is it more important to be patched against Print Nightmare or to be able to print to a particular network printer? Only you can answer that question, and you should do that along with your IT support personnel. So again, from ThreatPost, back in August, cybercriminals attempted to scam engineering, energy, and architecture and other firms by posing as the US Department of Transportation. I'm going to read some of this article because it does a great job explaining what a phishing campaign really looks like. The quotes in this article are from Roger Kay, Vice President of Security Strategy at email security provider INKY or Inky. Quote, "The campaign, which targeted companies in industries such as engineering, energy, and architecture that would likely work with the US DOT, sends potential victims an initial email in which they're told that the US DOT is inviting them to submit a bid for a department project by clicking a big blue button with the words, 'Click here to bid.' The emails themselves are launched from a domain, transportationgov.net, that was registered by Amazon on August 16th, Kay said. The date of its creation, revealed by Whois, seems to signal that the site was set up specifically for the phishing campaign. Once on the fake bidding site, targets are then instructed to click on a bid button and sign in with their email provider to connect to the network. It also instructed them to contact a fictitious person at another fake domain, specifically mike.reynolds@transportationgov.us, with any questions. Once victims closed the instructions, they were directed to an identical copy of the real US DOT website that the attackers created by copying HTML and CSS from the government site onto their phishing site. Once on the imposter US DOT site, targets are invited to click a red "Click Here to Bid" button that brings up a credential harvesting form with a Microsoft logo and instructions to log in with your email provider. A first attempt to enter credentials is met with a reCAPTCHA challenge, often used by legitimate sites as an extra security device. However, attackers already captured credentials by this point, Kay noted. My takeaway on this is cybercriminals love to take advantage of current events. Wherever there is urgency, confusion, or uncertainty, there will be a phishing campaign associated with it. Cybercriminals will frequently register domain names, copy official websites, and even have human beings who answer phones and email. Make sure you're getting your information from official, trustworthy channels and not simply reacting to emails, texts, and other messages just because they sound official or urgent. This is where a good cybersecurity awareness training program can save the day. Your people are busy and frustrated, and it only takes one to forget the basics to let the bad guys in. Finally, from InfoSecurity Magazine, in related news, InfoSecurity Magazine highlights a report from research firm Tessian, who predict a massive increase in malicious emails in the fourth quarter of the year. This is based on historical precedent, and it makes sense. This is a distracting time of year. With holidays, end-of-year deadlines, cold and flu season, and weather events, not only should employees be on the lookout for an uptick in phishing, they should also be additionally wary at specific times of day, namely the afternoon, when they're trying to get things done and get home. The cybercriminals know this and use it to their advantage. My takeaway again is that your employees need continuous security awareness training to make sure they are always vigilant. And that's your cybersecurity executive briefing for this week. Before we get into the Q&A session, I just want to mention that the best place to connect with me is on LinkedIn. If you need to run, thank you for attending, and I'll see you next week. If not, stick around and I'll answer your questions or take a deeper dive into anything that might have piqued your interest. Remember, this session is being recorded. If you have a question that you don't want disclosed publicly, stick around to the end or contact me later. And now I will open up for questions. All right, I am not hearing anything.
No, I don't hear any questions.
Okay, then that'll be it for this week. Thank you very much for attending, and I will see you next week.
Great. Awesome, bro.